always whatever it can be. I love to talk to whoever, wherever, whenever about whatever. There are no stipulations. It's just whoever is interesting. I started breaking barriers because I started to understand that in today's society, people just don't want to talk to each other anymore.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to Breaking Barriers with Deirdre Shannon. I'm sure you guys are seeing me, I guess, in a different light today. I'm kind of in a chill mood today, honestly. I just not too long ago got off of work. So whatever, you guys will see my scrub tops, all the things. I work at a veterinary hospital, so I get to rub on cats and dogs all day and puppies and kittens. Yeah, it's great. Anyways, I just want to say, hey, what's up? See how you guys are doing. I know that last week I spoke to you briefly about Aunt Jemima, and I was saying that, like, I'm been pretty open with you guys. I tell you all the time, like, there's a lot I don't know, there's a lot of stuff I haven't experienced, and that I'm struggling. I'm struggling with what's going on in the world. I'm struggling with this whole, Black Lives Matter movement. Not that I'm not in support of Black lives, clearly, but I'm on the fence about a lot of things because I have grown up so much differently than other people, and I've seen Black and white people in a much different light, a different perspective. So, I'm struggling. So, but anyways, I said I was going to talk about some things in the sense of, like, if I'm going to talk about things, it's going to force me to do some more research on the things that I'm talking about, because I don't want to be ignorant. And I feel like ignorance is the biggest part, not biggest part, biggest problem in our world today is just sheer ignorance. And I don't want to be an ignorant person anymore. So I definitely did some research on the whole Aunt Jemima situation. And I was pretty blown away about learning the stories of what's behind Aunt Jemima and things like that. So back in the day, Aunt Jemima was definitely, I guess, a depiction of what white people pictured all Black women to be, and they had a name for that, which was Mammy. And that kind of brings me to, I don't know if you guys ever seen Gone with the Wind, but in Gone with the Wind, the main character had a head mistress or a head slave of the house. And one of the famous lines, actually, I believe she's one of the first Black actors to win an Academy Award for that, was the young lady who portrayed the slave in Gone with the Wind. And one of her famous lines was, "I don't know nothing about birthing no babies." And um, in the movie world, that's like a historic thing, and it is great that she was the first Black woman to win an Oscar, but at the same time, it's kind of like I don't want to take away the fact that she won an Oscar. That's a huge, huge honor. That's an Academy Award, I mean, which is humongous. But let's be real, it gets political. Academy Awards are political. So what I'm saying is that, yes, she was accomplished and she won an Oscar, but at the same time, it's kind of hard to not recognize the fact that you won an Oscar for the fact that this is how white America views Black people, as being uneducated and the way that they speak. And it's unfortunate that the fact that even the Black people that were slaves had to hide the fact that they were educated, because that was seen as a threat. But nonetheless, I went ahead and I did some research on Aunt Jemima, and I found out that Aunt Jemima started off as its own, like, pancake company, and they were kind of struggling. They were kind of struggling, and they have a picture of, like, the first Aunt Jemima box, and the caption on this, it says, "Eyes in town, honey," and it says Aunt Jemima's pancake flour and things like that. So what I found out was, actually, there was a slave named Nancy Green, and Nancy Green was actually one of the first slaves who, I guess, made a living for herself out of betraying Aunt Jemima. But actually what it was Nancy Green actually like reformed the product of Aunt Jemima. She is the whole reason that the pancakes um became better. So just looking at some of the research that I've done, it says right here, I went ahead and I looked up an article, and it says that here the Chicago woman Nancy Green originally portrayed the Aunt Jemima trademark. So what they did was they let Black women make money by dressing up as Aunt Jemima. So um, Nancy Green was one of the key people who dressed as Aunt Jemima. And she was a Chicago woman who originally portrayed the Aunt Jemima trademark. And that she, because of her and how she portrayed it, she made the image very popular for Aunt Jemima, for the pancake products. So, and Quaker Oats, which ultimately owns the Aunt Jemima brand, admitted that this week that they were going to change the whole dynamic of the product because it was based on a racial stereotype derived from an African American mammy, which is the character betrayed from a popular show back in the 19th century. So Nancy Green was a slave who moved to Chicago to work as a caretaker for a prominent white family, it says here, called the Walker family, I believe. And she was hired to portray the living version of the character in 1893 World's Fair, according to her obituary. But she was later hired to play the role for the Pancake Company until her death. And what's interesting about it was that she actually developed her own pancake mix, and the Aunt Jemima Company took it and ran with it. And then in that, what do you call it? Like advertisement. Oh, I can't think, you guys. In the advertisement, it says, "Eyes in town, honey." It says, "Better this year, better this year than ever before." Listen to me, I can't even read. Prepared from wheat, corn, rice, makes the finest pancakes imaginable. No trouble at all, only takes minutes to prepare. All grocers sell. So what's going on here, though, is that Nancy Green was the person that was responsible for making Aunt Jemima pancakes better. So she was the actual woman who first started betraying Aunt Jemima, or one of the many women. And then there was another woman who came along, and her name was Lillian Richard. And Lillian Richard was also another woman who was hired to play and demonstrate this Aunt Jemima brand. This was how there was like 12 women total that portrayed Aunt Jemima, and they would dress up the way she did with her hair, but it was a character. But the point is that now all of a sudden, because of this Black Lives Matter movement and all the crap that's in the world, they have decided, Quaker Oats, the company, has decided to rebrand because of the racial stereotype that the brand of Aunt Jemima was based on. However, there's another side to this. Nancy Green broke barriers. She broke a lot of barriers because not only did she just get a job as betraying Aunt Jemima, but she actually is responsible for changing the recipe of the Aunt Jemima pancakes. And she was proud. She was proud to betray Aunt Jemima, and she was proud to be a working Black woman. So, and then have Lillian Richard, who then became another ambassador for the Aunt Jemima brand and went on many tours and world tours with the World Fair, and distributed the Aunt Jemima mix and things like that. And she was proud. She was a proud Black woman to do this, and a proud woman to say she could work. So I say this, everybody, give me 2 minutes or so, and we'll be right back with Breaking Barriers, and we'll speak more. Hey guys, we're back with Breaking Barriers, and I was just talking about again the Aunt Jemima brand. So I'm talking about the fact that Nancy Green, who was the original woman who was a slave who became an ambassador for the Aunt Jemima pancake brand, who was actually responsible for changing the whole recipe and making it better to the awesome freaking pancakes that we have today, or have had for generations and generations and generations to come. My whole life, my entire life, like I know I don't look it, guys. I mean, I look pretty good for my age, but I'm 35. So from my 35 years, Aunt Jemima pancakes have been around. So this tells me even for my mother's whole life, my mother's 60, she has had Aunt Jemima pancakes. So this woman who probably was told she would never make anything of herself is the whole reason behind the Aunt Jemima brand. She took on proudly of wearing the headscarf and how Aunt Jemima was portrayed. And if you think about it, it represents the caretakers. If you think about it, if you think about back to slave days and all this type of stuff, who was taking care of the children? Who was taking care of the wife in the house? Who was taking care of the husband? Whatever he decided that would have been. And then leaving the white homes and then going and taking care of their own families. That was Black women. Black women. Black women were wet nurses. We can get into that later, but nursing white women's children because they didn't want to deal with it so they could get their figures back. Cooking, cleaning, raising the children that they had been nursed. And if you think about it, how this Black Lives Matter movement has supposed to come along and created a change, things are changing. Things are definitely changing. But now it's to the point where it's like, with this change, with this movement, which is supposed to be something good, I'm not saying that it isn't. I'm saying we have now erased or are erasing the legacy of two women who were proud of what they did in life. They were proud of the barriers that they broke as Black women, leading a life that they never thought they would. Nancy Green was a slave who became a person who changed an entire company's recipe. And even though she had to walk around as Aunt Jemima, she was the reason why the pancakes tasted so good. She was the reason why everybody got to experience the new recipe. And then for Lillian Richard to come along, to be proud that she was able to go from where she came from, which is, I believe, in Hawkins, Texas, and she was able to go to Dallas and to get a job as a young Black woman and to support herself and to be able to travel around the world as a Black woman and be able to support and leave a legacy for her family. The Richards family is proud that Aunt Lillian portrayed Aunt Jemima. And so it's interesting because here in this article, the niece of Lillian Richard had something I thought was fantastic. Her name is Vera Harris. Lillian Richard's niece supports the decision and the Black Lives movement about Aunt Jemima. That Aunt Jemima represents a part of history for her family in the town of Hawkins, Texas. But she said, erasing my Aunt Lillian Richard would erase a part of our history, says Harris, who serves as a family historian for the Richard family of Hawkins. All of the people in my family are happy and proud Aunt Lillian and what she accomplished. So she said, you know, even though, you know, she kind of, I guess, somewhat supports the decision of Quaker Oats, you know, acknowledging the fact that, you know, it was based off of a insensitive stereotype, she still doesn't want to erase the legacy of what her aunt has done or what her aunt did or what Nancy Green did. She said, I think my aunt was excited about, first of all, it was a job. It was a job and it was a paying job. And she said she would go around to give demonstrations at fairs And it was something that she was able to do without having to take care of somebody or to cater to somebody or, or to jeopardize her body at the time. Because we all know that was, and still is a thing today, just being a woman. She said to keep her aunt's legacy alive, she says her family hopes that Quaker Oats comes out with a commemorative box to recognize the many women who betrayed Aunt Jemima. Because remember, I said there was 12 women. There was 12 main women who were called ambassadors who represented the Aunt Jemima brand and the character. And they said the back of the box could list their names and put a spotlight on one of the women each month. I think that is absolutely fantastic. I think that is absolutely amazing and that they should. Because instead of just saying, oh, we've been incredibly racist for all of these years, let's rebrand what we're doing and take everything off the box, why not put a spotlight? Put a spotlight on Nancy Green and what she did and what she accomplished. And the fact that because of her, Aunt Jemima pancakes taste so good. Put a spotlight on the fact that this was Lillian Richards' job that was paying and supporting her and showing the generations of children and relatives that she was being raised around or help raising or influencing raising or even, leaving a gift to little Black girls today. She got out there and she was able to support herself and she was able to travel the world while she did it. I mean, that if that's not breaking barriers, I don't know what is. And I think that with all of this Black Lives movement, Black Lives Matter and this movement and everything like that, don't erase what we have actually accomplished. So, because now it's going into like sensitivity, kind of like the dare I say it, Me Too movement. Because like, if you think about it, if we keep going in the direction that we're going, guys, like stand-up comedians will never have a job again. Not if everything they say is going to offend everybody, and that's what is going on. Like, HR and corporations have been having field days for the past couple of years with the Me Too movement and now the Black Lives Matter and the LGBTQ community. Like, it's crazy. It's nobody is saying that these people shouldn't feel respected. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm also saying that we're supposed to be a country of freedom of speech. That's what we're supposed to be based off of. But it's getting more and more and more that we can't say anything that we want to say. So we'll be right back with Breaking Barriers. Welcome back, guys, to Breaking Barriers. And as I was just saying, that like it's getting to the point where we're not going to be able to laugh. We're not going to be able to joke. We're not going to be able to have our freedom of speech, which is supposed to be something, one of the biggest things about this country and what it was founded on, this country of America and us being able to have freedom of speech. It's being taken away. It's being taken away left and right. And left and right, you see all of these news headlines with so and so didn't apologize. So now, da, 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 da. Well, if we have a freedom of speech, we can say whatever the hell we want to say. You know how many people have lost their jobs because technically there is no freedom of speech? There is. In fact, Nick Cannon just got fired from Viacom, CBS, because they said he was anti-Semitic, and he wouldn't apologize for being anti-Semitic. So, again, you know what? That's the next thing we're gonna have to research, because I saw the article, I glanced over it, but I didn't like dive into it because honestly, I have 3 children and they interrupted me. But that's besides the point. The point is that I'm definitely, just like I promised you guys, I was gonna research about Aunt Jemima because I was owning up to the fact that I didn't know enough about it, and now I do know. I'm going to research that too. I'm going to figure out, what was he fired for? But he's not the first person that's been fired over something that he said. I mean, I believe there was and it's not just black people. White people have been fired for the thing they say. Roseanne got fired for the tyrant that she went off on, and blah 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 blah, and like so. Let's be honest with each other. There are things that we can say to each other that are mean and they're hurtful and they're hateful and they're disrespectful and they're racist and things like that. But at the same time, we're supposed to have this freedom of speech. So I need us to make up our minds. Either we're going to have freedom of speech and we're going to live amongst ourselves and get along as we've been getting along, kind of, or we're going to allow all of these people, like if you say certain things that can't be said and blah, 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 we're going to get it to the point where our society is going to have to live in this little bitty box, a box that next thing you know, they're going to tell us what we can say. They're going to tell us how we can dress. They're going to tell us where we can eat. I mean, it's already starting. If you think about it, with all of this coronavirus thing, 25% of the restaurants in America have closed permanently. So it's kind of rough. Like I've said this once before, like we're almost headed to Demolition Man, you guys. If you've never seen Demolition Man, please watch it because it's an old 90s movie and you should, because 90s was awesome. But the only restaurant in Demolition Man that made it was Taco Bell. Could you imagine? Could you imagine our lives right now if the only restaurant that makes it is Taco Bell? We're gonna have problems, stomach problems mainly. But the point is that I'm continuously trying to understand how to make this movement, this Black Lives Matter movement, this LGBTQ community movement, this, whatever other cause you want it to be, to have a good purpose, to not divide us, to not separate us, but to lessen the ignorance, to help connect us. That's why we're trying to break the barriers, not build them. And so for Quaker Oats, thank you for finally realizing. I mean, your pancakes have been around since 1893. So now in 2020, you want to change the racial stereotype about your product? But by doing that, you're erasing all of the accomplishments of those women. So I think you should take Miss Vera's advice, the niece of Lillian Richards, and I think you should put a spotlight on the amazing Black women of the world who have continued to be the caretakers of not just white America, of America. And do that. Put little stories or snippets on the back of your box to show or to explain or to educate the world, not just little Black boys and girls, but the world, anybody that buys your pancakes, about the strong Black women who created your product and made it what it is today. You want to make a change, you want to do something, you want to be a part of the Black Lives Matter movement, do that. Stand up for that. Stand up for their legacy. Stand up for what they were able to do. Stand up for the fact that they were unicorns. And I say that strongly, unicorns, because what Nancy Green and Lillian Richards did, and during the time that they did it in, was unheard of and unimaginable. And they made it a reality. So idolize that. Instead of betraying Aunt Jemima, put a picture of Lillian Richards and Nancy Green on your boxes and put their stories on the back of your boxes. And there you go. Still make money off of the pancake mix that you've been making off for many, many years. I thank you guys for entertaining my thoughts this week. This is Deirdre Shannon with Breaking Barriers. I'll see you guys soon.
It all started when I used to commute I was born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland, and I used to commute to DC for work for 5.5 years. And I noticed on the commuter train, no one wanted to speak to each other. No one wanted to sit by each other. Nobody wanted to touch or rub elbows. And I got to the point where I was like, you know what? We got to get back to talking to each other. Everybody gets so caught up in celebrity stories and what celebrities are doing and trying to keep up with the Joneses. But that's not what Breaking Barriers